A Human, our story 7. Dam of Damnation. "Come on, Bob, we are getting closer now," said his equal over his shoulder as he scrambled up the mounds of gravel. A human tried its best to follow the insect up the mounds, but it was tough going in the sliding shale. "How much further, Ezekiel?" it asked.
"Oh, I'm not sure, Bob. Oh, hang on a moment. That's not good. See there, that slime on the shale. Gravel toads in here, Bob."
"I take it they're not at all friendly, then?" asked a human, coming up alongside Ezekiel to inspect the slime.
"No, Bob. Not at all, Bob. Giant, deadly, poisonous, and they'll be lurking in this gravel somewhere, no doubt, waiting for the next victim, which hopefully won't be us. But worse than that, Bob, they only dwell around sinkholes, which means the reservoir must be getting hungrier, and we don't want to end up in there, do we, Bob?"
"Okay, Ezekiel. I will watch my step."
"Be sure that you do, Bob, and watch mine for me too. If something happens, take my pack and get to the gate. The twins are waiting there for us."
"Okay, come on. Let's get across these pits."
"Agreed."
The two set off again, far more cautiously, and as they climbed the mounds, harsh winds began to rise, whipping up bits of dirt and dust to sting a human's eyes and flesh. There was a valley of sorts between the mounds, and they dropped into it to try and shelter from the worst of the winds. Slowly they progressed, trying desperately to keep their footing on the loose gravel and shale beneath. Then fear pervaded their minds as the croaking began. They both stood on the side of the mound, listening as the winds whipped and howled, trying to discern where the croaks were emanating from. They could not see much of anything in the smoky mists, so after a while Ezekiel raised a limb, and very cautiously they continued forward. The toad was almost the same colour as the gravel, and had a human not slipped, it would never have noticed it in time. For a human's footing went, and it slid down upon the gravel slope. As its face hit the aggregate, it noticed the buried toad just to the right of Ezekiel Ezelion. A human instinctively shouted out, "Ezekiel!" The mantis jumped back as the toad erupted from the gravel ahead, its giant maw open wide. It would have easily caught and crushed Ezekiel in its mouth, if not for the abrupt warning. A human scrambled as it unwillingly moved downwards, the gravel sliding away beneath it, and all of a sudden a hole began to form at its destination at the bottom of the valley. Again a human shouted, "Ezekiel!" but this time in the hope for succour.
"Bob, spread your arms and legs, slow yourself down,"
shouted Ezekiel, as his nimble limbs carried him down the slope after a human. The toad creature was slowly rising the rest of its considerable slimy bulk from the gravel after its initial attack. A human spread itself out like a star, desperately hoping to slow its momentum. It actually worked, and before it knew it, the long limbs of Ezekiel were lifting it back to its feet. Below, the hole was growing rapidly, and the mound upon which they stood was gradually falling into it with alarming rapidity.
"Hold on to my backpack, Bob,"
he shouted, just as another undetected toad began to rise from the gravel next to them. A human did so, gripping the pack tightly. Ezekiel's long legs squatted, and then with one huge release of energy, he launched them into the air, just as the second toad snapped for them, sending rivulets of poisonous slime everywhere. From beneath Ezekiel's trench coat, wings burst forth, and a human felt the effort it taken to do so, as they launched up into the grey mists and harsh winds above. It looked back down below to where the toads were, and saw them jumping up the banks as the sinkhole expanded wider and wider, drawing in more and more gravel to its unseen bottomless gut. The winds were now savage, and a human held on dearly. He could feel Ezekiel fighting the currents as they flew. He thought he heard the man-mantis say something, but the words were ripped away. Still he pressed on, and as they progressed, a human could feel him tiring. Then, with a cruel blast of wind, something terrible happened. The straps of Ezekiel's pack snapped, and a human came hurtling away from the flight of the insect, now firmly in possession of both the packs full of dynamite. A human flew through the air. Bob was now screaming its head about something, but a human didn't know what. With a smash, its legs hit the top of a gravel mound before it rolled side over side down its bank. Miraculously, neither of the bags detonated with the successive impacts. Finally, it slid down to the bottom of the mound and stopped. A human paused, panting, its heart racing, and then when it realised it was still alive, it looked around at where it was. First, it looked up into the howling winds above, but there was no sign of Ezekiel. Then it looked down. The gravel led out onto concrete, and from there the foundations of a giant opaque fence could be seen. It got to its feet. Any effect of those pills had thoroughly been driven from its system by the enormous amount of adrenaline it had just experienced. Its leg was agonizing. Its clothes were ripped, and beneath them the dark skin of Bob had enough cuts and scrapes to remind a human of the keloid further beneath it still. It slowly walked towards the fence as the harsh winds howled. The weight of both packs was almost too much to bear, but now Bob spoke clearly. "I have a job to do. I hate them all, but all will be free. For tonight we flood hell with the souls of its own torment. I must follow this fence to find the gate. Ezekiel will head there too. Whoever thought I'd be working with a bug to get this done? Still, needs must. All four of us are in this together. The twins will get their reward from their mother, I'm sure, the disgusting beasts. Ezekiel and I will drown, but fuck it, anything to break this torment of hell." A human felt the imperativeness of the words and dragged the body of Bob and the packs of dynamite forward with all its willpower. A human looked up. The fence disappeared into the grey sky above. It was festooned with razor wire and danger of death signs. A human followed along the base of it, as best it could, limping along for hours on end. It was slow going, and there was so much pain. The human wanted to drop and give up, give in, and as the pain took more and more attention, the psyche of Bob came more and more to the forefront of its mind and drove the body forward, step after step after step. "I ought to kill that bug before we blow this place wide open. He has helped me, yes, but I just want to see the look on his ugly insect face when he realises the betrayal. Stupid bug. Still, all souls free tonight, Bobby boy. Fuck the overlords, fuck the work, fuck the mines. They'll find out my name soon enough. What's the worst they can do? Damn me again? At least they can't damn me in that reservoir anymore. You're a genius, Bob Oddman, a genius. Fuck 'em all, flood 'em all, kill the bug just for the thrill of it, just to see the look on his face, just for smashing up my vehicle, just for riding in that sickening bug truck. I'll kill him just before the boom, so he can't see everything he's worked so hard for come to fruition." A human pushed onwards, now a spectator to Bob's mind. All the while the pain battered it, along with the winds. Eventually the ground began to rise, and a human could see the base pillars of a huge concrete bridge above. "That's it. That's the gate. I have to get there. Meet the twins," came the thoughts of Bob. A human slowly advanced towards the pillars. Underneath the bridge it stunk of sulphur and other foulness. Rats ran freely about its feet. A human looked up into the drips falling from above. There was no way up here. All it knew was it was going to have to follow the bridge back to somewhere where it could climb up. A human let out a deep sigh, for the toll on its body was immense. Slowly it followed the underside of the bridge back away from the fence. An hour or so passed. Its footfalls felt like lead, and the desire to drop both packs and sleep where it stood were pressing upon it with ever greater force. But Bob would not allow it. He didn't want to be eaten alive by rats tonight. And so at last the human came to a place where the ground rose to meet the road. Slowly it climbed over a break in the barrier where it could, and continued the long walk up the road back towards the gates. It walked and walked and walked, and Bob talked his thought and thought. A human realized Bob was far from a pleasant man. There was a blue light coming from somewhere above the gates, and as a human approached, a small door opened beneath, and out of it ran a figure towards a human. As the figure got closer, a human recognized it, for it was Ezekiel Azelion. His hat was missing, and his trench coat tattered, where his wings had burst open and saved them from the toads and worse.
Bob, my dear Bobby Bob, you live! The plan could continue. Oh, Bob, you are the best, Bob. Here, let me take that pack from you,
he said as he ran up to a human. A human happily handed the pack over to him, and felt some of the encumbrance it had entailed depart.
We are really going to do this tonight, Bob. Just like we talked about for all that time. The twins don't like us being here and want to get away to their mother as soon as they can. But they have kept their end of the bargain and have let us through. Oh, Bob, you really are a legend, Bob. Come on, we are nearly there. We nearly have our chance to change this place forever.
A human struggled on as Ezekiel helped it towards the door in the bottom of the gates. A human was genuinely pleased to see him, but beneath it was too tired to contain Bob's thoughts.
Just wait till I see the look on your face, Bug, when I murder you before I blow the dam.
Up the stairs and in the blue light of the gatehouse, a human met the twins again. They looked as miserable as ever, but both now wore eye patches. I was glad the Bug wasn't too drunk, and I'm glad you're alive, although you took your sweet time. I almost thought you were lost or dead, and we would be punished incommensurably if the plan failed. Well, you don't look too good. Perhaps you aren't any dead. Just get the job done first. Here, take this pass. It will get you where you need to go. One each. If anyone asks, you overwhelmed us with poison. We have enough to show in our system. Not that that matters too much, said the dour voice of the first twin, handing them a glass bottle each. A human took the bottle and looked at it. Inside was an eye floating in some liquid. An eye for an eye, eh? I guess that's why we're here anyway, said the second twin, looking up from something he was writing. Yes, said a human, somewhat nonchalantly, still fixated at the twin's eye floating in the bottle.
Well, we can't thank you enough. This is excellent, eh, Bob? We're in and we shall blow this dam wide open tonight. All the souls of the reservoir will be free to flood hell, and we shall have fame immortal. I guess that is what you're writing about there, eh? The Chronicles of Ezekiel and Bob, eh?
Said Ezekiel, pointing to the second twin's writing. Absolutely not. I enjoy the adoxography of gate hinges. I've spent my whole life lubricating them, and I and those I write for can appreciate the finer details of them, unlike you.
Well, we will never be forgotten. I expect they will have our names with warrants for arrest already, eh, Bob? But we'll show them tonight, for boom! Then what? We're free to realm this place as souls, not souls trapped that reservoir, eh, Bob? Boom, boom! Freedom!
Right, a gun each. We know what's inside the gates, so you'll need some protection. Now you've got what you need from us. Mother will not punish us too much now, we hope. We need to go, but we don't wish to be drowned when you blow it open. Mother wouldn't allow it. said the first twin, handing a human and his equal a gun each, and beckoning for its sibling to rise.
Thanks again, friends. Souls or not, we will never mention your names. By hell, we don't even know what they are,
said his equal, carelessly waving the revolver around. Careful where you're pointing that, Bug. No mention of us. That's the way we like it. We do this because Mother commands it. No other reason. Don't mention us and we won't you. Make sure you get the job done, or we will have a higher price than our eyes to pay, said the first twin, and they left. His equal put the gun in his trenchcoat pocket and held up his bottle with a twin's eye next to one of his giant mantis ones to inspect it.
Well, Bobby Bob, we've got everything we need. Let's get set on changing the history of hell forever.
A human nodded and laughed, and Bob thought, I've been given a gun. If only you knew what I've got planned for you, Bug.